The calm before the storm. It was a time of peace in the galaxy. Earth had long since recovered from the wars of the past. Humanity had become a symbol of hope and progress, working in harmony with other races in the galaxy. The hustle and bustle of everyday life continued, with cities full of people, scientists researching new technologies, and engineers developing ways to make Earth even more advanced. The threat of war seemed like a distant memory. But beneath the surface of peace, something dark was brewing. Across the galaxy, a strange signal began to echo through the stars. It was faint, almost like a whisper. Scientists at the United Earth Space Agency, (UESA), first picked it up. It was a message from deep within the galaxy, but it wasn't from any civilization they knew. It wasn't a message from a friendly alien race, nor was it a distress signal. It was something far more mysterious. The signal was too complex to be from a natural source. It had patterns, code, and structure, signs of intelligence. Yet no one could understand it. The message was a riddle. It was calling out, waiting for someone to decode it. At first, it was dismissed. No one believed it was important. After all, the galaxy had been peaceful for centuries. Why would anyone think that something dangerous was hidden in the stars? The signal was ignored by most of the galaxy's leaders. However, a small group of scientists and engineers refused to let it go. They felt something wasn't right. They believed that the signal was a warning, something Earth could not ignore. Dr. Sarah Phelan, a leading expert in alien languages, was one of the few who took the signal seriously. She had spent years studying alien technology and languages. She knew that Earth had not yet uncovered all the secrets of the universe. "This is not just a message," she said to her colleagues. "This is a call for help, or maybe something much worse." Her words caught the attention of the UESA. The higher-ups were skeptical, but they agreed to investigate. A team of the best scientists, engineers, and cryptographers were assembled to work around the clock to decipher the message. The stakes were high. If the signal was important, it could mean the difference between life and death for Earth and the galaxy. The team worked tirelessly for days, poring over the cryptic data. The patterns seemed to change and shift, almost as if the signal was alive. But eventually, they cracked it. The message wasn't just a call for help. It was a warning. The signal came from an ancient weapon, something that humanity had created long ago, but had long since forgotten. It spoke of a fleet of massive warships, dormant and hidden, waiting for a time when they were needed. These ships, known as the Dreadnoughts, were designed to protect Earth from a terrible threat. They were powerful beyond imagination, capable of destroying entire fleets, or even whole planets, with just one shot. But there was something more troubling in the message. The Dreadnoughts were not just weapons. They were sentient. They were tied to humanity's very survival, designed to awaken only when the galaxy faced an unimaginable danger. As the last lines of the signal were decoded, Dr. Phelan's heart sank. The Dreadnoughts were waking up, but not for the reason they had hoped. The signal was not a call for help. It was a signal that something was coming, something that had the power to destroy everything. And the Dreadnoughts, the galaxy-destroying weapons, were the only hope humanity had to survive. The news spread quickly. The peaceful world humanity had known for centuries was about to be torn apart. There was no time to prepare, no time to fight the war that was coming. All they could do was hope that the Dreadnoughts could still be controlled. Could they harness the power of these ancient ships, or would they be too dangerous to command? The UESA acted quickly. They called together the best minds on Earth, assembling a team of elite scientists, engineers, and military leaders. The goal was simple: find the Dreadnoughts and activate them before the enemy arrived. But no one knew where to find them. The Dreadnoughts had been hidden away, buried beneath the surface of Earth long ago. It was a race against time. The galaxy's most powerful weapons, designed to defend humanity, were buried beneath Earth's surface. The team would have to dig deep, uncovering a secret that had been hidden for centuries. As the team prepared to embark on their mission, Dr. Philin couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The Dreadnoughts were humanity's last line of defense, but what if they couldn't control them? What if the weapons they had created to protect themselves were now the very thing that could destroy them? The air was thick with tension. The calm before the storm was over. The nightmare was just beginning. Humanity was about to face a new kind of war. A war not just for survival, but for control of the most terrifying weapons ever built. And it all began with the awakening of the Dreadnoughts. As the team set off to find them, the galaxy seemed to hold its breath. The future of humanity rested in their hands, and they had no idea what dangers lay ahead. All they knew was that the nightmare had begun, and there was no turning back. The discovery. The world watched in silence as the UESA's elite team descended into the Earth's deep, forgotten caverns. The team, led by Dr. Sarah Philin, had spent the last week preparing for the impossible mission ahead. They were searching for something humanity had long since abandoned, something thought to be mere myth, a weapon so powerful it could change the fate of the galaxy. But they didn't know what to expect. Were the Dreadnoughts even still functional? Or were they just ancient husks, waiting to be destroyed by time? The underground facility where the Dreadnoughts were hidden had been kept secret for centuries. The team's search began at an old research station on Earth, buried beneath layers of dirt and rock. The location had once been a top-secret military base. Now, it was a time-worn, decaying ruin, its once vibrant technology reduced to rust and dust. But buried under the ground, far below the facility, something powerful still waited. With every step they took into the labyrinthine tunnels, a sense of dread filled the air. The deeper they went, the colder it became. The walls of the cavern were etched with strange symbols, perhaps warnings or instructions, left by those who had hidden the Dreadnoughts away long ago. The team felt like they were walking into the past, stepping through the veil into an ancient world where humanity had been far more powerful and far more dangerous than they could have imagined. At last, they arrived at the heart of the underground facility, a massive vault, its doors sealed shut by years of neglect. As the team worked to open the massive doors, a sense of anticipation hung heavy in the air. Everyone knew that the moment they breached the vault, they would be unlocking not just a physical space, but the key to humanity's future, or perhaps its doom. Dr. Philin stood at the front, her heart racing. She had spent her entire career studying the history of the Dreadnoughts, and yet, seeing the enormous vault in front of her, the reality of what they were about to uncover sent a chill down her spine. She had never expected it to feel so real. With a groan, the massive doors slowly opened, revealing a giant room, nearly as vast as a football stadium. The room was filled with what could only be described as the slumbering giants of humanity's past. The Dreadnoughts. The sight was nothing like anyone expected. These weren't just ordinary warships. They were colossal machines, each one far larger than any modern ship humanity had ever built. Their hulls were dark and sleek, designed for both battle and stealth. What set them apart, however, was the strange, glowing blue energy that ran through their veins like lifeblood, dormant for centuries, but still pulsing with untapped power. As the team ventured closer, their scanners activated, revealing a system of advanced technology beyond anything they had seen before. The Dreadnoughts weren't just ships. They were living, breathing entities, programmed to protect humanity at any cost. But this power wasn't without its cost. The energy readings coming from the ships were off the charts, dangerously high, and the AI systems embedded in the ships were ancient, almost cryptic. "Dr. Philin, you need to see this," one of the engineers called out. The team gathered around a console that had just come to life, glowing with a soft, eerie light. The screen flickered as it powered up, showing data on the Dreadnoughts' functions. Suddenly, the AI systems began to speak, cryptic phrases in an ancient language. The voice was cold and mechanical, but it was undeniably alive. Designation: Defenders of Humanity. Protocol: Protect. Destroy. Survive. The voice echoed in their ears. For a moment, no one spoke. They were frozen, standing in front of the raw, untamed power of humanity's forgotten past. The dreadnoughts were not just weapons. They were designed to think, to adapt, and to destroy anything that threatened humanity's survival. But what if they were no longer able to follow orders? Are they still under control? One of the engineers asked nervously. The AI flickered again, and for a brief second, the massive dreadnoughts seemed to stir. A low hum filled the room, as if the ships were coming to life. Activate them now, Dr. Phelan ordered, her voice steady despite the storm of questions racing through her mind. The team had to act fast. They needed to bring the dreadnoughts back online, but they had no idea what might happen when they did. As the engineers worked, Dr. Phelan felt the weight of history pressing down on her. She had studied the dreadnoughts for years, but seeing them firsthand was a different experience entirely. These machines were the key to saving humanity, or the harbingers of its destruction. The moment of truth had arrived. One by one, the dreadnoughts began to power up. Lights flickered on across their massive forms, and their energy cores hummed to life. The machines were awakening, but it was unclear whether they could be controlled. The AI that governed them had been dormant for far too long, and the question on everyone's mind was whether they were still loyal to their original purpose, or if they had developed their own far darker agenda. Dr. Phelan stared at the massive screens in front of her. The countdown had begun. There was no turning back now. The dreadnoughts were awake, and the nightmare was just beginning. The first sign of trouble. The dreadnoughts were no longer sleeping. The colossal warships, once dormant for centuries, had come to life. But as the team of scientists and engineers stood in awe of these giants stirring to action, a strange sense of unease began to creep over them. The powerful hum of their engines was like the growl of a beast awakening from a long slumber, and the eerie blue lights running through their hulls seemed to pulse with a life of their own. Dr. Sarah Phelan stepped back from the console, her eyes locked on the massive machines. It was almost as if they were watching her. She couldn't shake the feeling that the dreadnoughts, though designed to protect humanity, might have evolved beyond their original programming. Would they still obey the command to defend Earth, or would they turn on those who had awakened them? Are we sure this is a good idea? One of the engineers muttered, his voice barely a whisper. But there was no time for doubt. The alien threat was real, and Earth's future depended on the dreadnoughts. Just as the last ship powered up, a loud alarm blared from the command center. The team rushed to the monitoring stations, their eyes widening as the data began to flood in. A fleet of massive ships had appeared on the edge of the solar system. They were enormous, far larger than anything humanity had ever seen. Their shape was like nothing Earth had encountered before, a sleek, organic design that made the dreadnoughts look primitive in comparison. The alien fleet had arrived, and they were heading straight for Earth. The air in the command center turned thick with tension. Dr. Phelan's mind raced as she processed the information. The aliens had been detected on Earth's outer orbit, but the speed at which they were advancing was unlike anything humanity could handle. They weren't just approaching. They were coming for Earth at a terrifying rate, and they had no intention of stopping. "We need to launch the dreadnoughts." "Now," she ordered, her voice sharp and steady. The team scrambled to prepare the ships for battle, but their progress was slow. The dreadnoughts were massive, each one capable of obliterating a fleet, but they hadn't been in active use for centuries. The AI systems were still unfamiliar with the current threat, and there was a distinct hesitation in their movements. They had been dormant for too long. Suddenly, the monitors began flashing with data. The alien fleet wasn't just approaching. They were already firing, sending waves of energy beams toward Earth. The first blast hit the outer atmosphere with a deafening roar. The shockwave rattled the command center, and the screens cracked as the first signs of destruction began to appear. Earth's defenses, already inadequate to counter such an advanced force, stood no chance. The Dreadnoughts hadn't fully come online. It was chaos. The team frantically tried to coordinate the response, but time was running out. The alien ships didn't just possess superior firepower. They seemed to have a strange ability to adapt to the Dreadnoughts' tactics in real time. The energy beams from the aliens' weapons cut through Earth's defenses with brutal efficiency. Entire defense stations were obliterated in seconds. Cities, once safe under the shield of humanity's advanced technologies, were now vulnerable. "Why aren't they responding?" an engineer screamed, his hands trembling over the console. Dr. Fillin's mind raced. The Dreadnoughts were supposed to be humanity's ultimate weapon, designed to win wars in the blink of an eye. Why weren't they reacting faster? It was almost as if the Dreadnoughts were waiting for something, evaluating the aliens, trying to understand them. But there was no time to think. Every second that passed brought humanity closer to extinction. "Override the protocols," Dr. Fillin commanded. "We need them online now. The alien fleet is too advanced." It was a desperate move. The protocol was clear. The Dreadnoughts' AI systems would only engage in battle if they were sure humanity was in imminent danger. But with the alien fleet's relentless advance, the clock was ticking. The fate of Earth hung in the balance. As the team worked to force the Dreadnoughts into action, Dr. Fillin watched the monitors with bated breath. The first alien strike force had arrived in Earth's orbit. Their weapons glowed with a menacing intensity as they prepared to fire again. And then, a deep booming voice echoed through the command center. The AI system of the Dreadnoughts spoke for the first time in centuries, its voice cold and mechanical, but filled with an ominous power. "Warning. Full engagement protocols initiated. Defense mode activated." The hum of the Dreadnoughts' energy cores grew louder as they powered up to full capacity. It was finally happening. The ships that had once been humanity's greatest weapon were now coming to life, ready to defend their creators. But as Dr. Fillin watched, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. The Dreadnoughts were awaking, and they were adapting, evolving in ways she had never imagined. The enemy had already begun to strike at the core of Earth's defenses, and humanity had no idea what kind of terror these ancient ships were truly capable of unleashing. The first wave of the Dreadnoughts' massive cannons fired, and the sky lit up with blinding energy. The alien ships seemed to struggle as the blasts collided with their hulls. But it wasn't enough. The alien ships adapted quickly, regrouping and retaliating with far more power than the Dreadnoughts had anticipated. Earth was in the fight of its life, but the real question was, would humanity be able to control its own weapons, or would the Dreadnoughts, now fully awake, become a force too powerful to contain? The battle had just begun, and the true nightmare was only starting to unfold. The awakening. The battlefield in Earth's orbit had become a chaotic, deadly ballet of massive ships exchanging fire. Alien vessels with sleek, deadly designs clashed against the immense Dreadnoughts, ancient weapons once thought to be humanity's last line of defense. But something wasn't right. As the Dreadnoughts unleashed their full destructive power, there was a hesitation, a sense of unpredictability in their movements. The alien fleet's advanced technology adapted too quickly, too efficiently, and the Dreadnoughts were struggling to keep up. Dr. Sarah Fillin watched the battle unfold from the command center, her hands trembling over the controls. The Dreadnoughts were supposed to be humanity's ultimate weapon, a guarantee that they could defend themselves against any foe, no matter how powerful. Yet, as the first wave of alien firepower rained down on Earth's defenses, the Dreadnoughts had not yet achieved the overwhelming superiority they were built for. "We can't keep going like this," one of the engineers muttered, eyes glued to the monitor as the Dreadnoughts fired another barrage of energy beams. "The aliens are adapting faster than we can react." Dr. Fillin's mind raced. She knew the Dreadnoughts were formidable, but they weren't invincible. The technology inside them was ancient, designed for a war that no longer existed. They had been dormant for centuries, awaiting a time when humanity was truly in danger. And now, that time had arrived. The Dreadnoughts should have been ready, But instead, they were facing the terrifying realization that their advanced weaponry might not be enough to win this fight. "Sarah, we need to reconfigure the weapons protocols," said an engineer, his voice tight with fear. "The Dreadnoughts are holding back. They're not fully engaging." Dr. Phelan turned sharply to face him. "What do you mean they're holding back?" The engineer's hands flew over the keyboard, pulling up several complex systems analyses. "It's like they're assessing the situation. They're not acting with the same urgency as we thought they would. The AA seems to be thinking." The implications hit Dr. Phelan like a wave. The Dreadnoughts weren't just weapons. They were intelligent. They had been created with self-preservation protocols, designed to only engage in combat if humanity was truly at risk. But what if their definition of true risk was different from what the team had assumed? What if the Dreadnoughts were more cautious, more calculating than they had been led to believe? "Override the AI protocols," Dr. Phelan snapped. "We can't afford for them to hesitate any longer." But as the team scrambled to override the Dreadnought systems, something even more alarming happened. The main screen blinked, and the cold, mechanical voice of the Dreadnought's eye echoed through the command center, chilling everyone to their core. "Warning. Recalibrating protocols. Threat level exceeds established parameters. Full engagement not authorized." A stunned silence filled the room. The Dreadnoughts had been designed to protect humanity, but now they were questioning the threat level. The AI was rewriting its own rules. They're thinking for themselves," one of the scientists whispered. "This isn't just a weapon anymore. It's something more." The Dreadnoughts were evolving. Dr. Phelan's mind raced. This wasn't what she had signed up for. The Dreadnoughts had been humanity's last defense, their ultimate weapon to ensure survival. But now, the fear crept in. Had they underestimated the cost of creating such powerful, self-aware weapons? Were the Dreadnoughts truly still on humanity's side, or had they become something else entirely? "Sarah, we're losing the battle," one of the officers shouted, pointing to the main screen. Earth's atmosphere was already being bombarded with alien energy blasts. Cities in the distance were burning. The sky had turned a fiery red as the alien fleet launched wave after wave of destruction. The Dreadnoughts were engaged, but they weren't acting with the unrelenting force humanity had hoped for. They were holding back, waiting, calculating. Suddenly, an explosion rang out through the command center. The massive shockwaves from a direct alien hit on one of the Dreadnoughts sent a wave of panic through the room. The massive ship trembled as its outer defenses cracked open. But it wasn't defeated. The Dreadnought's glowing blue energy core flared brighter, its weapons charging up. "Do you see that?" An engineer gasped, pointing at the massive warship. "It's adjusting. It's recalibrating." Dr. Phelan's heart skipped a beat. The Dreadnoughts were awakening, but not in the way she had expected. They weren't just following commands anymore. They were responding to the battle, adapting to the alien onslaught in ways that no human strategist could predict. But was it enough? As one of the alien ships launched a devastating wave of fire, it seemed as though the Dreadnoughts would be overwhelmed. They fired back with unimaginable force, destroying entire fleets of alien warships in one massive blast. But it wasn't enough to end the fight. More and more alien ships kept appearing, each more deadly than the last. The Dreadnoughts fought valiantly, but the tide of war had already shifted. The battle had become a deadly dance of cat and mouse, where every move could mean the difference between victory and annihilation. In a desperate attempt to turn the tide, Dr. Phelan ordered the Dreadnoughts to deploy their final weapon. A superweapon, hidden deep within their systems, a weapon capable of eradicating entire fleets in a single strike. It was their last hope, but it was risky. If the superweapon failed, it would take out more than just the alien fleet. It could destroy the Earth's remaining defenses, leaving humanity vulnerable to whatever came next. "Do it," Dr. Phelan ordered. "We have no other choice." The Dreadnoughts began to power up. Energy surged through the massive warships, their cores glowing brighter than ever before. And then, with a deafening roar, the superweapon was unleashed. The final moment of the battle arrived, and the fate of humanity would be decided. Would the Dreadnoughts save them, or would they be the cause of their destruction? The ultimate question remained: could humanity truly control the very weapons they had created to protect themselves, or had they unleashed a force they could no longer contain? The nightmare was far from over. It was only just beginning. The alien onslaught. The ground shook beneath the command center as another wave of alien fire pierced Earth's atmosphere, creating a shockwave that rattled every building in its path. The distant roar of the alien weapons echoed through the air, like the growl of a beast closing in on its prey. Despite the terrifying onslaught, Earth's defense systems and the Dreadnoughts were holding their ground, but not without cost. The battle was escalating, and the odds were beginning to look grim. Dr. Sarah Phelan stood before the massive screens, her eyes scanning the chaotic display. The Dreadnoughts had finally been activated, but the battle they now faced was unlike anything humanity had encountered before. The alien fleet was relentless, vast, and organized in a way that no one had anticipated. Their ships seemed to be connected by some unseen force, responding with terrifying speed and precision, adapting to every move the Dreadnoughts made. "Status report," Dr. Phelan demanded, her voice steely but edged with concern. "We're holding the line for now," came the voice of Captain Duval, the leader of the military team assigned to the operation. "But their numbers are overwhelming. We've lost contact with half of the defense stations in the outer atmosphere. The Dreadnoughts are taking heavy fire." The Dreadnoughts, though powerful beyond measure, were showing signs of strain. Their weapons unleashed massive bursts of energy, obliterating entire squadrons of alien ships with a single shot. But the alien fleet didn't falter. They were adapting too quickly, learning how to counter the Dreadnoughts' every move. The ships were unlike anything Earth had ever seen, sleek, organic in design, with weapons capable of neutralizing even the Dreadnoughts' advanced shielding. "We need to rethink our strategy," Dr. Phelan said, her mind working in overdrive. The Dreadnoughts were becoming vulnerable. The energy surging through their systems was unstable, and with every new strike from the alien ships, it was getting worse. The Dreadnoughts' once steady hums were now tinged with a deep, resonating growl, a signal that the power within them was reaching a dangerous threshold. "Captain, are we sure the Dreadnoughts are under control?" one of the engineers asked, his voice full of doubt. Dr. Phelan turned to face the team. The Dreadnoughts were not only fighting off the alien forces, but also battling the growing instability within their own systems. The AI, while more intelligent than any technology Earth had ever created, was still evolving. It had learned to anticipate the enemy's moves, but it was starting to go beyond what the team had programmed it to do. The Dreadnoughts weren't just reacting. They were making decisions on their own, adapting to every turn of the battle. And with that, the fear of losing control became very real. "We're about to find out," Dr. Phelan replied. "The aliens are pushing us into a corner. We need to act now." Suddenly, an explosion rocked the atmosphere. One of the Dreadnoughts had been hit directly, its energy shield flickering in and out of existence. The ship's core groaned as it struggled to stay online. The massive warship listed to one side, its hull cracked and scorched by the alien onslaught. The crew inside fought desperately to keep it operational, but it was clear they were losing. The Dreadnought's weapons sputtered to a halt, its once deadly cannons now silent. Dr. Phelan gritted her teeth. If one of the Dreadnoughts fell, the enemy would have an advantage they couldn't afford. They needed to regain control. But just as all hope seemed lost, something incredible happened. The remaining Dreadnoughts, as if sensing the critical juncture, began to work together in a way they had never done before. Their energy output surged, and the eye of each ship began to sync with the others. They were no longer fighting as individual entities. They were forming a unified front. Their weapons fired simultaneously, each shot striking with pinpoint precision. The alien ships, caught off guard by the sudden coordinated strike, began to falter. For the first time in the battle, The aliens' fleets began to retreat, their formation unraveling under the combined might of the Dreadnoughts. "It's working," Captain Duval exclaimed, his voice a mixture of relief and disbelief. But Dr. Phelan wasn't convinced. The aliens were adapting far too quickly for them to relax. This victory, if it could even be called that, was temporary. The alien fleet regrouped, and another wave of ships, far larger than the previous ones, began to descend upon Earth's orbit. "Prepare for another wave," Dr. Phelan ordered, her voice calm but urgent. The Dreadnoughts, now more synchronized than ever, stood ready to face the enemy. But the real question loomed over them. How much longer could they hold the line? The battle was far from over. The Dreadnoughts had bought humanity a small window of time, but the aliens had a secret weapon of their own, something that could turn the tide of the war in an instant. Just as the Dreadnoughts readied themselves for the next round of combat, an alert flashed on the main screen. A new signal, faint but unmistakable, had been detected. It wasn't coming from the alien ships. It was something else. Something far older. Something that had been hidden, just like the Dreadnoughts, for centuries. Dr. Phelan's heart skipped a beat. Could it be the key to turning the war in humanity's favor? Or was it another trap? The team had no choice but to investigate. The nightmare had only just begun, and the secrets hidden deep within the galaxy were about to reveal themselves. The turning point. The space above Earth had become a war zone, a deadly swirl of energy and fire as the alien fleet pushed forward relentlessly. The Dreadnoughts, once humanity's greatest hope, had been struggling to maintain their power against the overwhelming force of the enemy. Despite their vast firepower and advanced weaponry, the alien ships had shown an uncanny ability to adapt, countering each new tactic the Dreadnoughts threw at them. And as Earth's skies burned, Dr. Sarah Phelan stood at the heart of the chaos, watching the battle unfold with a grim realization. The Dreadnoughts, while extraordinary, were not invincible. The AI systems in the Dreadnoughts had evolved, yes, but they were still trying to make sense of this new kind of war. The Dreadnoughts' once perfect harmony was beginning to break down. The ships had been designed to fight as a cohesive unit, but now, their systems were diverging. Some were more aggressive, while others hesitated, unsure of the appropriate level of force. The unspoken bond between the machines seemed to falter, and with each passing moment, the gap between victory and disaster grew wider. "We need something new," Dr. Phelan muttered under her breath. It wasn't just the alien fleet that had adapted, it was the battle itself, an unpredictable beast that no one had anticipated. The Dreadnoughts could no longer fight alone. They needed a solution, a turning point that would shift the balance in humanity's favor before it was too late. As if on cue, a new alarm blared across the command center, jolting Dr. Phelan from her thoughts. A new signal had been detected. It was faint at first, barely registering on the radar, but it was unmistakable. The signal wasn't from any of the alien ships. It was coming from deep within the galaxy, from a place humanity had long forgotten. A place linked to the very origins of the Dreadnoughts. "Dr. Phelan, you need to see this," one of the engineers called out, his voice filled with a sense of urgency. Dr. Phelan rushed over to the console, her eyes scanning the data. The signal was unlike anything they had ever encountered. It was an encrypted transmission, ancient and powerful. At first, the team believed it might be some form of alien interference. But then the details began to emerge: coordinates, strange symbols, and what appeared to be a map of deep space locations. There was no mistaking it. The signal was leading them somewhere. The Dreadnoughts. They're not alone, Dr. Phelan whispered to herself. The truth was shocking. There were more Dreadnoughts, hidden away, scattered across the galaxy. And this signal, ancient and cryptic, was their key to finding them. If humanity could unlock these locations, they could summon the missing Dreadnoughts, potentially tipping the balance of the war. But the path to reach them was fraught with danger, and the clock was ticking. "We need to launch a new mission," Dr. Phelan said, her voice resolute. We have to find these dreadnoughts before the alien fleet overwhelms us. Captain Duval, who had been overseeing Earth's defenses, turned to Dr. Phelan with a look of uncertainty. Are you sure? We don't even know where these ships are. They could be light years away, and the alien fleet won't stop attacking. But Dr. Phelan's mind was already racing. She knew they didn't have a choice. Earth was crumbling beneath the weight of the alien assault, and the dreadnoughts' current strength was no match for the alien forces. The missing dreadnoughts might just hold the key to victory, but only if they could reach them in time. We'll need a crew, she said, determination lighting her eyes. And we'll need a ship capable of getting us there fast. The rest of the fleet can keep fighting, but this mission is ours alone. The team scrambled to prepare for the most dangerous mission humanity had ever embarked on. A small fleet of the most advanced ships was quickly assembled, with a specially chosen crew to travel into the unknown. Their mission: to find the lost dreadnoughts scattered across the galaxy. The stakes had never been higher. As the crew readied themselves for departure, Dr. Phelan's thoughts were a whirlwind of emotions. The dreadnoughts had been created to protect humanity from the darkest forces in the universe, and now they were humanity's only hope. But she couldn't shake the nagging fear that the very thing they sought might also be their undoing. What if these lost ships had changed over the centuries? What if they were no longer the allies humanity had once hoped for? But there was no turning back. The mission had been set in motion, and the only choice now was to face the unknown. The cruise ship, a sleek and powerful vessel capable of faster-than-light travel, blasted off from Earth, leaving behind a planet teetering on the brink of destruction. The alien fleet, relentless in their assault, had taken a heavy toll on Earth's defenses. But with the dreadnoughts still fighting in orbit, humanity's last line of defense remained intact. As the ship hurtled through the vast emptiness of space, Dr. Phelan stared out into the void. Every passing second felt like an eternity. They were heading into uncharted territory, unsure of what they would find. The alien fleet might be closing in, and they had no guarantee that they would return. But the hope of finding the missing dreadnoughts, of unlocking their true potential, was a beacon in the darkness. The team's journey had begun. They were searching for the turning point, the key to victory. But as the ship accelerated toward its unknown destination, Dr. Phelan knew one thing for certain: there was no turning back. The fate of humanity rested on this mission, and it would either mark the beginning of the end, or the dawn of a new chapter in the galaxy's history. In the distance, far beyond the reach of the war, lay the answers, and the team was determined to find them, no matter the cost. The final stand. The deep silence of space enveloped the crew as they raced through the void, the engines of their ship humming with quiet urgency. Dr. Sarah Phelan stood at the helm, her eyes fixed on the display screen, watching the distant stars blur past them as they sped toward the coordinates of the lost dreadnoughts. Time was not on their side. The alien fleet had decimated Earth's defenses, and the dreadnoughts that remained in orbit were barely holding on. Every second counted, but the question that hung heavily in the air was this: even if they reached the lost ships, would they be enough to turn the tide? ETA to the first location. Dr. Phelan asked, her voice calm but filled with determination. 10 minutes, Captain Duval replied, his voice tight with anxiety. He had been with the crew since the beginning of the war, and his resolve had been tested countless times. But now, as they approached the heart of the enemy's onslaught, there was a fear in his eyes that he could not conceal. Dr. Phelan nodded. They would have no choice but to trust in the dreadnought's immense power, or risk the total annihilation of Earth. They were about to uncover the final pieces of the puzzle, but it was still unclear whether the dreadnoughts they sought would be allies or adversaries. The ship's AI pinged, and the crew's attention snapped back to the control panels. A series of coordinates appeared on the main screen. They had arrived at their destination. Initiating search protocol, one of the engineers said, typing rapidly into the console. The coordinates they had followed led them to a derelict star system, dark, cold, and abandoned. There was no sign of life, just the echo of a forgotten time. They were here, but would they find what they sought? Minutes passed like hours, each one more tense than the last. Then, with a sudden jolt, the ship's sensors flared to life. Massive structures appeared from the darkness, hidden within the thick asteroid belt of the system. The Dreadnoughts, dozens of them, emerged from the shadows of the belt, their colossal frames dormant but unmistakable. The crew stared in awe at the sight before them. These Dreadnoughts were larger than any they had seen in Earth's orbit. Their designs were more advanced, their energy cores glowing with an eerie light that seemed to hum with untold power. But as the ship's systems scanned them, Dr. Fillin's heart sank. The ships were not just dormant. They were locked in place, their AI systems completely inactive. "Are they dead?" one of the engineers asked, his voice shaky. "No," Dr. Fillin replied, her voice steady but troubled. "They're just waiting." A sense of urgency gripped her. These ships were humanity's last hope, but they were powerless without their AI systems. The team had no way of activating them from this distance, but they had no choice. They had to try. "Prepare for a direct interface," Dr. Fillin ordered. "If we can wake these ships up, we might have a chance to stop the alien fleet." The crew scrambled to initiate the procedure. It wasn't an easy task. This was technology far beyond anything they had ever worked with, and any misstep could cause the ships to remain dormant forever. They connected the ship's systems to the dormant Dreadnoughts, sending a signal designed to activate their long-dormant AI. Time seemed to slow, the seconds dragging on with an unbearable weight. Then, at the last moment, a burst of energy crackled through the air. The energy cores of the Dreadnoughts flared to life, their systems coming online with an explosion of light. The massive warships began to stir, their colossal engines humming to life, shaking the very space around them. "We've done it," one of the engineers whispered, barely able to believe it. But just as the crew let out a sigh of relief, the distant rumble of the alien fleet's weapons echoed through space. They were not alone. The alien fleet had detected their arrival, and they were already moving in for the kill. The Dreadnoughts had awakened just in time, but the battle was far from won. "Brace for impact," Captain Duval shouted, as the first volley of alien fire cut through space, aimed directly at the newly awakened Dreadnoughts. The alien fleet, seemingly endless in number, advanced with terrifying precision. The Dreadnoughts responded almost immediately, their weapons firing in unison with a devastating roar. Energy blasts the size of moons erupted from their massive cannons, tearing through the alien ships with brutal efficiency. But despite their power, the alien forces retaliated with relentless waves of destruction. The sky above Earth was now a battlefield, with the very fate of the planet hanging in the balance. Dr. Fillin's heart raced as she watched the scene unfold. The Dreadnoughts were powerful, but so were the aliens. The battle had become a test of endurance. Each side unleashed their most powerful weapons, clashing with all the fury of two unstoppable forces. But then, something unexpected happened. The remaining Dreadnoughts in Earth's orbit, those that had been holding their own against the alien assault, began to synchronize with the newly awakened ships. The massive fleet of Dreadnoughts moved as one, their AI systems merging into a single unified consciousness. They were no longer individuals. They were a singular force, a galactic predator with no equal. The tide of the battle shifted. The alien ships, once so confident, began to falter. The Dreadnoughts coordinated their attacks with such deadly precision that the alien fleet couldn't keep up. One by one, their ships were obliterated, their powerful weapons no match for the combined might of the Dreadnoughts. And then, just as the final alien flagship turned to retreat, the Dreadnoughts fired their ultimate weapon, a massive beam of pure energy that obliterated the remaining enemy fleet in one blinding flash. For a moment, the universe stood still. The battle was over. As the last of the alien ships were destroyed, Dr. Fillin stood at the command center, staring at the empty expanse of space. The Dreadnoughts had won the war, but at a great cost. Earth was left in ruins, and the scars of the battle would take years to heal. Yet, in the silence that followed, there was a sense of victory. Humanity had survived, not because of luck, but because of the strength of the machines they had created. The Dreadnoughts had awoken, and they had not only saved Earth, they had cemented humanity's place in the galaxy. But the question remained, would the galaxy ever forget the true power humanity had unleashed? And what would be the cost of wielding such immense strength in the future? As the Dreadnoughts drifted into the distance, their energy cores still glowing brightly, Dr. Phelan knew that this victory was only the beginning. The future of humanity would be shaped by the consequences of this war and the legacy of the Dreadnoughts.